Get strong.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Please confirm in chat if you can hear me. Okay. A very good morning to everybody. How are you all? Okay, great. Welcome to the webinar on Can India Solve Its Farmers' Plight and Become a Superpower? Today, I'm joined by 5 experts from diverse field of agriculture and biotech sector, as well as veterans of the industry who are going to have a very interesting and intellectual talk from all across the field. Okay, so this webinar is going to be super interesting. Now, before we started this webinar, this morning, while I was taking the breakfast, I thought, like, who brings the food to our table? And the simple example is farmer, right? Am I right, guys? Yes. So farmers play a very crucial role in our food chain and supply chain. And even during these lockdown times, they have continued their duty, right? And that is the reason our Prime Minister could commit feeding 80 crore poor people till November via the public distribution system. Now, today, as I come to you, I want India to not just become self-sufficient. We all want that. We want to thank our farmers and agricultural scientists and professionals who played crucial role in making India self-sufficient. So essentially, whatever we are today is a summation of all the previous generation efforts and achievements. But the question to be asked today is, can India and will India remain a food self-sufficient country in 2050? Can India become an agricultural superpower? And can India become the food bowl of the world? So today in this webinar, we are going to just discuss that. Now tell me, if you want to send your soldiers to the border, won't you give them the right tools, the right gears, the right weapons? We will, right? Yes. So it is that time to empower our farmers with the right tools of agricultural biotech. Well, I have a lot of questions. I'm very excited to attend today's webinar. So we'll be discussing a lot of things. Okay. We'll also be taking your questions at the end. So there'll be a Q&A session. Now, before I pass on the controls to our speakers, I have a special request for all of you. Okay. If you want to help India become an agricultural superpower, if the answer to this is yes, then please share this video link with all your friends and bioprofessionals. Use social media, use the power of social media, use the hashtag India Agri Superpower. Okay, hashtag Biotechnica, and do not forget to tag Biotechnica. Let us bring all our friends, colleagues, and bioprofessionals on the same page today. And let's keep the foundations of India as a superpower, as an agricultural superpower. All right? Yes. Now, all of you who will be attending this webinar till the end will be given e-participation certificate. Okay? So do not forget to attend this webinar till the end. Okay? Is that a promise? Yes? Then type in the comment box till the end. Okay? Right. Fantastic. So without wasting much time, now I would like to invite Dr. Jagdish Mittur to take over as the coordinator of today's webinar, and I will meet you at the end. Thank you so much, guys. Over to you, Dr. Mittur.
Hi, good morning, Shekhar. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, Shekhar? Good morning, Shekhar. Can you hear me? Okay, all right. So thank you so much, Mr. Shekhar Suman and Team Biotechnica for organizing this mega webinar on agriculture. You know, this is my second time on this platform, and I'm highly impressed by the professionalism of your entire team. I'm really, really grateful that you accepted to use your platform to host such a wonderful, very important webinar for all of us. Namaste to all the listeners, all the people who have logged in from within India, outside of India. I know a few of our friends from other countries have also logged in, including some very, very close friends, some mentors, as well as maybe some family members also. The topic chosen today is an extremely important one for all of us, like what Shekhar mentioned. It is about farmers' plight. It is about India solving farmers' plights. It is about if India can actually be in a position to become a food bowl for the world. Well, at least one of the few food bowls for the world. So this is something that we need to be looking at. Like Shekhar mentioned, can India become a superpower, at least in agriculture, by 2030, 2035, 2040, and so on. So today we will be addressing primary agriculture. What is primary agriculture? It is about issues at the field level, at the farm level. It is about issues on farmers who are working at the field level. It is a bit more fundamental than the secondary agriculture that we keep talking about, which is getting a lot of focus, which is appropriate. Which is secondary agriculture is more to do with what happens to a produce after it's been harvested. It's about post-harvest storage and so on and so on. We're not going to be talking too much about that. We're going to be talking about the issues that affect the farmers at the ground level, at the field level. So it's about primary agriculture. So primary agriculture, for it to be successful, it is important that we have a very good, teamwork. We need to have the right players to coming forward to work as a team. Shekhar, if I can have the next slide, please. So here I have a graph which is about primary agriculture. Primary agriculture is about farmers dealing with monsters of various kinds, as you can see in this slide here. There are monsters around which are natural monsters or which could be man-made monsters, human-made monsters. It could be something like the variety or the seed that is being selected. It could be diseases of various kinds, which could be bacteria, virus, insect pests, so on and so on. It could be the lack of enough water in the ground. It could be many other. It could be salinity. It could be cold stress. It could be heat stress. These are all the monsters which are trying to fight with the farmer to bring his efforts down as the curve is going down and down and down, as you can see in the graph. Now, if technology, any kind of technology, as long as it is safe and proven, even elsewhere, can we use this technology, innovative technologies, to fight these monsters and help the farmer to lift the curve up, if not almost to the top, as I've shown there, at least towards the top. That may help the farmers to really deal with the situations that we have. So this whole talk is going to be how technology can help to fight such monsters. If I can have the third slide, please. So to me, agriculture is a source of F words. Not the words, some of the words that you may be thinking of. I'm thinking of food, feed, fodder, forage, fiber, flowers, fuel, fluids, fitness, and also fruits, which is not there in the list. So all these F words have come from the source of agriculture. And to deliver these products coming out of these F words to the community, there are farmers who've been working day and night, 24/7, 365 days a year. And some of the farmers are fairly happy because the conditions around them are fairly congenial, and they're happy farmers, as shown in the photograph at the top. But below, there are many, many farmers, thousands of them around the country, who are in distress because certain technologies are not made available to them. They're already suffering from natural disasters like floods or like drought or like other kinds, soil health, and so on and so on. So what is that we can do? What is how science and technology working with other people can help these farmers, at least to some extent? If we don't address these issues, how are we going to face the challenges that we have in India itself. Can we reach a situation where farmers can help to meet these challenges, even to be self-sufficient to feed India itself? Or then we can start thinking about feeding at least a few countries outside the world, outside India. Some of the challenges we have right now is 1.39 billion humans. And to that, we must add billions and billions of animals. We need to provide them the same thing that we need to provide humans. In the face of decreasing resources, it could be land, it could be water, it could be contaminated soil or air, and so on and so on. In the face of this, India is importing a lot of food from various countries. So can we decrease imports and increase exports is the challenge that we have. To add to this, we have climate change. Even a 0.5 degree rise in the temperature can affect the world, can affect the oceans, can affect the forests, can make new insects come as pests, can decrease the yield, and so on and so on. So these are some of the issues that we have in our hands. So how can we address this? On top of this, we have time-to-time crises such as floods, such as earthquakes, such as locusts, as you would have seen in television, or you may have faced yourself in certain states of India, or the pandemic that has held all of us, the whole world, in its grip, the COVID-19. When you add these crises on top of what the problems farmers already have, then how are we going to address the need for food, feed, and fodder, and so on and so on? So now we are talking about challenges we have now. Imagine going to 2030 or 2050. By 2030, we're going to be 1.5 billion people. That's just another 10 million people to add to the current population number. We're going to be 1.5 billion people, and to add also the increasing number of animals. So we must think about what is that we can do now, where is that we must invest, which areas we must invest, and also what strategies that we must use. To do all this, we need teamwork. We need teamwork. Next slide, please. We need teamwork. We have science and technology experts coming together, government officials in a continuous manner, not in a sort of a intermittent manner, and then of course farmers. If these three specialists come together, I'm sure we're going to have a wonderful impact on the society. We're going to be providing benefits to the society. It has happened in the past, whether you know it or not. It has happened in the past. Some of you are very young, you may not have faced this, but some of us have faced this, particularly the people in the older generation who are listening to us, have faced this. Those three examples, actually, I would like to refer to them as revolutions. I would like to call them as roti revolution, makhan revolution, and kapda revolution. So let me just go slide by slide, and then I'll pass it on to other experts. Next slide, please. The roti revolution, which is actually the green revolution, I'm talking about 60s, 70s, and 80s, when India was literally starving. There was famine in the horizon. So we had to import food. To put a stop to that, Norman Borlaug and scientists in India, Professor Swaminathan, Dr. Shivram, and many others got together. They found the problems, and they worked with the government. At the government, we had, under Mr. Nehruji's cabinet, we had a very wonderful man by name Mr. C. Subramanian, who could see the problem. He worked with these scientists, and then he brought in green revolution, which helped in increasing the yields to such an extent that India eventually became self-sufficient. Not only that, India could actually start exporting food to some countries. In 2019-20 itself, the grain production apparently is a record. I don't know that, but it's about 291 million metric tons of grain yield. In that, we have wheat about 106 million metric tons. We have pulses about 26, oilseeds 34, so on and so on. So we are not bad, but still farmers seem to be suffering for various other reasons. Next slide, please. So that's green revolution, or called the roti revolution. Now the makhan revolution. About 70s and 80s, we didn't have enough milk to feed to the children. So Mr. Verghese Kurian, a technologist, and his team got together to find out a problem. They worked with the Prime Minister of that time, Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastriji. Lal Bahadur Shastriji apparently visited the village in Gujarat, Anand, and he could see the problem. He connect to the problem right away. They worked together and established a dairy industry to such an extent that India is now one of the largest milk producing countries. Not only that, it's provide a life and living for many, many thousands and thousands of farmers. Even with someone with one cow or one buffalo, they're able to manage. So that's the sort of technology that got infused in. I like to call this as a makhan revolution. And the third one is what I call as the gin revolution, which is also a white revolution. Can I have the next slide, please? this one is where India was at a stage till about 2002 where we had to import cotton, for making textiles and so on and so on. Thanks to some multinational companies like Monsanto, like DuPont, like Dow, and all that, who were working on such issues, and they could bring in a technology in India, which actually became a huge hit after crossing several hurdles. And now the government that supported at that time was Mr. Vajpayee's government. They got together with these technologies and they brought genetically engineered cotton to the field. Initially, there was a lot of hesitancy, a lot of they were not sure. The farmers were not sure, but eventually, once they understood the technology, thanks to the scientists who could communicate to them, they really took it up. And now the majority of the major acreage of cotton growing areas is of BT cotton. Now we've reached a situation where India can actually export BT cotton. Next slide, please. But see, these crises have been solved, there have been some problems from those revolutions as well, because nothing is perfect, nothing is panacea. We have to continue to work on them. Because, for example, the increase in fertilizers in soil, we have to work on that. Apart from that, we have issues like excess sugarcane being grown. Farmers are in distress. What is that the sugar industry need to do to cooperate and to coordinate better? We have a brinjal situation, which is quite bad. The middle photograph that you see is actually from my field, where I've lost the entire crop of brinjal. And below that, there is an attack of fall armyworm, which is literally devastating across India, the maize crop. And because there are technologies available to address these issues, but unfortunately, these are not being taken up. Because of having waited for several years for not having access to this technology, some farmers have actually got frustrated and they've actually turned to civil disobedience. For example, growing of HTBT cotton in Maharashtra, in Haryana, and other states. And for example, now I hear, as of yesterday, that now they're looking at growing BT brinjal, maybe HTBT maize, soybean, and so on and so on. So this is happening through civil disobedience. How can we stop that to make it more legal? So these are some of the issues that we need to be talking about. So now I have put down the problems, I've put down the issues, and I'm asking the speakers, are there any answers to these issues that farmers face, that India faces? Can we come out of these crises and provide the farmers a better livelihood, a better technology, so that they can rely on themselves rather than relying on government waivers of loans and so on and so on. So this is my introduction. I hope I've set a theme. Now I would like to take a break and then invite the speakers. The first speaker that we have today is Dr. Manjunath. After him, there will be Mr. Ravichandran, who is a farmer himself. Dr. Manjunath is an agricultural scientist. Following him will be Mr. Ravichandran as a farmer. Following him will be Mr. Chengal Reddy, who is a farmer advocate. And then we'll also have Mr. Ram Kaundinya, who is a policy advocate. Now, if you don't mind, I would like to introduce Dr. Manjunath and see how he can take us through about the science behind the technology. So Dr. Manjunath is a very familiar person in India, not only amongst in the agriculture sector, but in other sectors also. He's one of the most versatile agricultural entomologists that I have come across, who has had 5 decades of experience. Believe me, he knows insects better than he knows probably his own family members. That's how much attached to he is at understanding and finding issues about the problems coming from insects. He's made pioneering contributions in the areas of biological control, integrated pest management, and insect-resistant genetically modified crops. He was a key member of the Monsanto Mexico team responsible for successful introduction and stewardship of BT cotton, the only GM crop that has been introduced in India. Now, I would like to request Dr. Manjunath to take some time to really introduce, how BT cotton came to India, and also the extent that farmers are benefiting, and how we can make use of opportunities that may be there to bring in new technologies. Over to Dr. Manjunath, please.
I wish to thank Biotechnica, particularly Mr. Shekhar Suman, for organizing this webinar. I also wish to thank Dr. Mittu Jagdish for his active involvement in this program, and also for introducing me to the participants. I'm really overwhelmed by the number of registered participants, which I learn it has already exceeded 7,000. The specific topic given to me today is opportunities with crop biotechnology, how it can contribute to overcome prevailing and emerging challenges in agriculture. When it comes to agriculture in India, we have made a lot of progress in this area for the last several decades. It all started with Green Revolution in the mid-1960s, and from then until now, we have never looked back. Presently, we are almost self-sufficient in food production. It has been made possible due to remarkable contributions made by scientists, technologists, farmers, policymakers, and various other stakeholders. This teamwork should continue. However, we cannot afford to be complacent because we are confronted with several uncertainties and new challenges. Some of the challenges that are in front of us are, next, to achieve higher production to feed the ever-increasing population, to preserve the ever-decreasing natural resources, which include agricultural land, forests, water, etc. About 30 to 40% of our yields are lost to pests, diseases, and weeds, so we have to secure greater protection. To provide more nutritious food to overcome malnutrition, to protect our environment from pollution, which is due to increasing number of industries, vehicles, and so many other factors. And more than anything else, we have to develop crops that can withstand harsh environmental conditions due to increasing global warming. To accomplish all this, we need new technologies. And in this context, crop biotechnology offers tremendous opportunities for us. Next. The objective of crop biotechnology is to enhance crop production, to enhance crop protection, and also to increase the quality of our food. So this can be done by manipulation of genes. The technology is all about manipulation of the genes. The genes can be manipulated by two ways, either by introducing the genes and the new genes from external source, and also by deleting or by actually altering the existing genes. In either case, it involves modifying DNA. In fact, crop biotechnology is a multidisciplinary approach. Next. Some mainstream crop biotechnology options that are available to us include genetically modified or genetically engineered crops where the genes are either allowed to express or the expression is suppressed. And gene-edited crops is another option. And the third option is genomic selection or molecular breeding. So all these options are available to us. Next. When we talk about transgenic crops or GM crops, so one important aspect is that the GM crops, they contain a new gene introduced from elsewhere. And what is important is that such a new gene can be identified from any source, and such source include bacteria, virus, fungi, plants, or whatever it is, and they can be introduced into the plant. And we know that these organisms, whether it is bacteria, virus, fungus, they are not related to plants in any way at all. But still, we are able to transfer genes from them. So this was unthinkable some years ago, some decades ago, and it was not possible through traditional breeding. So what was not possible in traditional breeding has been made possible through genetic engineering. So it is a remarkable breakthrough. Because it is such a tremendous breakthrough, it has been suspected to be a myth or unethical, and even some went on saying that it is against nature. But whatever it may be, the real fact is that it has become a scientific reality today. We know that all organisms, whether it is plants or animals, they are all made up of a miracle chemical called a DNA. Whether we like it or not, all human beings are related to plants and all kinds of organisms, animals, by DNA. And this DNA contains in each organism the DNA contains genes. The genes are responsible for various traits, which may include size, shape, color, behavior, and in case of human beings and animals, it may be temperament, it may be intelligence. So all these are related to genes. So it is possible for us to transfer genes from one organism to another organism thanks to genetic engineering. Next. With the help of genetic engineering or with the help of GM technology, it is possible for us to introduce appropriate genes into the plant and develop a plant which is resistant to insects, or it may be, it can be resistant to diseases or herbicide tolerance. It may be having herbicide tolerance. And it is also possible for us to combine more than one trait in the same plant. For example, herbicide resistance and insect resistance can be combined in the same plant. With the help of genetic engineering, it is possible for us to develop crops that can tolerate abiotic stresses like drought, cold, salinity, etc. We can go one step further and develop crops that are capable of yielding more, and also crops that have better quality traits, like, for example, it can be taste, it can be color, or it can be even the nutrition. So all these are possible. So with the help of this technology, it is possible for us to develop crops with a number of beneficial traits. So that is why I would like to say that biotechnology has opened a floodgate of opportunities for us. Next. So when we talk of GM crops, 1996 can be considered as a turning point because it was during that year 4 transgenic crops were commercialized in the USA. And out of these 4 crops, 3 were incorporated with an insecticidal genes derived from the soil bacterium called Bacillus thuringiensis for controlling the insects. The 4th one was for herbicide tolerance. These crops include, for example, BT corn. Next slide, please. This includes BT corn for controlling and the notorious pest called European corn borer. This is incorporated with the BT gene called Cry2AB. And another crop is BT potato. This is incorporated with Cry2AB, and this is for controlling the notorious Colorado potato beetle. The third crop is BT cotton for next. This is for controlling the cotton bollworms. This is incorporated with Cry1AC. There are several species of bollworms. So with the help of this gene, we will be able to control all of them. And the 4th crop is herbicide tolerant soybean. So all these crops have been commercialized and used by several countries. Although the actual commercialization took place in 1996, work on these crops started in 1983. So during the next 13 to 14 years, a lot of experiments are carried out in the field and also in the lab to ensure that these GM crops are safe to environment and they're also safe to non-target beneficial organisms. So a lot of research has gone into it, and also a lot of money has been invested, and finally these crops came into the market. Next. Research went on, and these crops are actually adopted by several countries, and several other crops are also brought under GM crops with various traits. Either it may be a single trait or it may be several traits stacked. And this have all found acceptance in various parts of the world. Next. When GM crops were introduced for the first time in 1996, the total area under GM crop was 1.7 million hectares, and it was grown initially in only 5 countries. But from year to year, the area increased, and also the number of farmers growing this crop also multiplied. But as of 2018, the area under GM crops was 191.7 million hectares. It was grown in 26 countries, and the number of farmers who actually cultivated GM crops was 17 million. It is not a small number. There are a few countries which do not grow the GM crops, but they import GM products. There are about 44 such countries. So if you put them all together, there are about 70 GM countries in the world today. Next. Next. And the GM crops or the biotech crops has given a lot of benefits to the farmers. It increased yield by about 22%, increased farmers' income by 68%. And each country that has introduced GM crops, they have been benefited. Supposing we pool the financial gain from 1996 to 2018, the total figure is about 186.1 billion US dollars. And this technology also helps in conservation of land and biodiversity. And because the GM crops are capable of taking care of themselves, there was no need for us to spray chemical insecticides. As a result, the use of chemical pesticides has come down by 37%. And because of that, there has been less exposure of humans, animals, and environment to insecticides. So overall, the GM crops have been able to give us social, economic, and environmental benefits with no negative impacts whatsoever. Next. So this is, as far as India is concerned, 2002 is a landmark year for us, because it was in 2002 the government of India approved BT cotton for control of cotton bollworms, which happens to be the first biotech crops that has been introduced in our country. So even after 18 years, BT cotton happens to be the only biotech crop that has been allowed by government of India for commercial cultivation. Next. There are several species of cotton bollworms. I mentioned that BT cotton was specially developed for controlling the cotton bollworms. There are several species of cotton bollworms in India, and these include, for example, Helicoverpa armigera. It is wrongly referred to as American bollworm. This species does not occur in America, nor it has come from there. So therefore, I always call it as the false American bollworm. And another important bollworm is pink bollworm, or Pectinophora gossypiella. And there are two others. They are called spotted bollworm and spiny bollworm. So all these bollworms together, they used to cause, before the introduction of BT, that is prior to 2002, they used to cause yield losses anywhere from 60% to 70%. That too, in spite of farmers giving about 15 to 17 rounds of insecticidal sprays. During those days, out of the total insecticides consumed in India, more than 50% used to be used on cotton crop alone, but still farmers were not able to get the control because these bollworms, they had already developed resistance due to overuse or abuse of chemical pesticides. As a result of this, the farmers were incurring heavy losses. They were frustrated, and many farmers, they had given up cotton cultivation. So if you think of the cotton bollworms during those days, that is prior to 2002, they are more or less like the coronavirus of today. People are completely shaken. They do not know what to do. So they were actually praying for some remedy. So it was during that time, because they had no option, the cotton growers, they had no option, next slide, they had no option, because since there was nothing else was available, they continued to spray insecticides, and the options available for us was to only spray and then pray. So, and their prayer was for some solution. And it was that critical juncture that BT cotton brought a ray of hope to our Indian farmers, as well as to the farmers throughout the cotton growing countries. Next. In India, BT cotton, as I mentioned, it was allowed for commercialization in 2002, but the work started way back in 1994. As in other countries, in India also, BT cotton was subjected to various kinds of field trials and laboratory trials for testing against the agronomic benefits and also its biosafety. And it's only after so much of research and it was found to be safe, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee approved BT cotton for commercialization in India, which was actually a very good decision. Next. In the first year, that is when in 2002, when BT cotton was approved for commercialization in India, for several farmers adopted it. And the area planted with BT cotton in the first year, that is 2002-2003, was about 20,000 hectares. But from year to year, you can see in the graph, there was a significant increase in the adoption of BT cotton by the farmers. Why farmers started adopting this BT cotton? Because it was simple reason that this technology has won their confidence. The technology is so simple. it is made available to farmers in the seed itself. All that the farmers have to do is to sow the seeds. When the seeds germinate, right from seedlings until the end of the crop, BT is present within the plant. And it is able to give protection against the bollworms without any extra efforts by the farmers. There was no need for them to spray insecticides. There was no need for any spraying equipments, and it was so comfortable, it is so farmer friendly. So that is why farmers fell in love with this technology and they started adopting it. As of 2018, the area sown by BT cotton was 11.6 million hectare, which comprised about 95% of the total cotton acreage in our country, which is a remarkable adoption. And it was grown by 6 million farmers. So this shows the confidence that the farmers had in this technology. Next. The technology has given a lot of benefits to Indian farmers and the Indian economy. The first benefit was that it has revised cotton cultivation in our country. The yield increase due to effective control of bollworms was from 31 to 67%. And the net profit that each farmer can get has ranged from 7,800 to 30,000 rupees per hectare. It reduced the application of insecticides from 25 to 55%. And this has created so much of interest. Biotechnology has created so much of interest that it has almost all the universities that started introducing biotechnology courses, and also several industries that started working on biotechnology. More than anything else, because of the tremendous increase in yield due to effective control of bollworms, and also due to the contributions made by other sectors like agronomy and plant breeding, India was able to turn from an importer of cotton to an exporter of cotton, which is a significant development in our country. But the road to success was not easy because it has to pass through several hurdles. Next one. Right from the beginning, there was opposition to BT cotton from a section of the society, right from the beginning itself. They actually destroyed the experimental plots and held protests against its commercialization. They made allegations that the cotton crop is poisonous and it is harmful to humans, animals, and the other organisms in nature. They said that it is very costly and not useful for controlling the Indian cotton bollworms. And they also alleged that it has brought in a lot of losses to the farmers. As a result, it increased farmer suicides in our country. They also said that the BT gene will escape from the plant and it will contaminate the whole environment and it will actually destroy the biodiversity. All these allegations were baseless, because we know that there are some specialists who are specialized in finding fault with the best, and if they cannot be best themselves, they try to destroy the best. And also, they made repeated protests. Protesting has become a profitable profession today. So BT cotton has to pass through all these allegations. But what is not properly understood was the scientific merit of BT and the BT cotton. Next. BT is the abbreviation for Bacillus thuringiensis. It is a soil bacterium which is distributed throughout the world. It was discovered way back in 1901 in Japan. There are about 80 subspecies or strains of Bacillus thuringiensis, and which produce about more than 180 BT insecticide cryproteins overall. What is most important about BT protein is that each cryprotein selectively affects insects belonging to a particular order. For example, there are BT protein that can affect only Lepidoptera, which includes moths and butterflies. There are those BT proteins there are also those which can affect only Diptera, which includes flies and mosquitoes. So they are so specific. The BT protein that is harmful to one group of insect will not cause any harm to another group. They are so specific, leave alone within the insect group, it cannot control, it cannot have any adverse effect on other organisms. Next, it is because BT proteins require certain specific conditions for their activity. When it is in the soil, when it is outside, it will not be active at all because BT has no contact effect. To be active, it has to get inside the body of the organism, body of the insect. So this happens when the insect actually feed on the plants. When the insects feed on the plants, they ingest BT protein, and at that time it will be in an insoluble state. It has to be converted into soluble state for which an alkaline gut is required. Then it has to be activated for which it needs a pH of more than 9.5. Then the BT protein has to bind, for which it requires specific receptors. So when it binds to the receptors, it creates pores in the tissues. As a result, the insect liquid, it actually comes out. The whole intestine of the insect, it becomes a mess. As a result, the insect stops feeding and finally it dies. So all these specific conditions are required for BT protein to be active. These are available only in the susceptible host insect. It is not available in higher organisms. For example, if human beings consume the BT protein, it will not be activated, nor it can bind because we don't have specific receptors. And that is why it will just pass through the intestine and it is very safe for us. So this scientific factor will have to be underlined by those who are actually making all kinds of allegations against BT. Next. And although BT cotton has given wonderful results, the latest development during the last few years is that bollworms, they have developed resistance to previous, right? They have developed resistance to the bollworms that have already been commercialized. So this is due to non-compliance of certain recommendations, but then resistance is a natural phenomenon. So we have to find an answer for this because no product can last forever. It comes with a shelf life. It has already served its purpose. So the opportunities available for us is to develop another product having different mode of action. It already, for example, Bolgard 3, which has come after Bolgard insect BT proteins. Third one is it is derived from a plant source. It is called VIP, vegetable of worms. Next, and other opportunities are available. I would like to say one is so this has the potential to increase yield from 20 to 30%. It has undergone all the biosafety tests and was recommended by GEAC for large-scale use in 2017 itself, but has not been approved for commercialization until now. Another important crop that has been developed is BT brinjal. This is controlling the shoot of brinjal. This pest causes heavy losses, and farmers gives anywhere between 25 to 30 rounds of insecticides, but still they are not getting the control. BT has again the trials, and it was approved by the GEAC in 2009. But in 2010, a moratorium was imposed, and it is prevalent even today. So even after 11 years, or 10 to 11 years, it has not been commercialized. So these are opportunities. If these two crops, for example, which have undergone all the trials, if they are allowed for commercialization, our farmers are going to be immensely benefited. Next, biotechnology offers us a lot of other benefits. For example, with the help of this technology, we will be able to develop crops. Water is a very important thing for us. Water is a big challenge for 21st century, and our crops, they consume a lot of water. So if you are able to grow crops with less consumption of water without compromising in the yield, it will be a great contribution. And this has already been demonstrated. We can develop crops, moisture stress crops, which can withstand a certain amount of drought situations. Next. And another important trait is cold tolerance crops. Next. If you are able to develop cold tolerance crops, we will be able to control the temperature. 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 We will be able to to grow crops in winter months. And without next one, we can actually, with the help of biotechnology, with the help of biotechnology, previous one, please. With the help of biotechnology, we can develop fruits, vegetables, and flowers that can be kept for a very long time. We can increase the shelf life of these by using appropriate genes. So this will give the benefit to farmers to delay their harvest and also for transportation. So this is possible through biotechnology. Next one. We are all very afraid of eating, next slide. We are afraid of eating the fried food because the oil contains a lot of fat in it. With the help of biotechnology, we are able to reduce the fat content in oil. The biotech oil contains very little fat. So as a result, our cooking the fried food can be very easily eaten because there is no fat in it. So this prevents any heart ailment. Next one. Next. So there are several options available to us. For example, vegetable oil, it not only helps us to overcome fat contents, but it also gives good flavor. And we eat several vegetables which do not contain much vitamins or proteins in it. For example, potato is one such thing. Potato contains a lot of starch and carbohydrate, but it does not contain any protein. By introducing a gene derived from the seeds of amaranthus, we have been able to enrich potato with protein. So if we eat potatoes, we will be able to get the supply of protein. So thereby it enhances the value of potato. Next one. One of the remarkable progress that has been made in biotechnology is the development of golden rice. We all eat rice, especially in Asian countries. We eat plenty of rice. But rice does not contain any vitamin in it. So as a result, there are a lot of people, although they eat rice, they suffer from night blindness because of the deficiency of vitamin A. So the genes derived from daffodils and Erwinia bacterium, have been introduced into rice crop. As a result, we were able to get a golden rice. So and it contains, the rice grain contains beta carotene, which is the precursor of vitamin A. Thereby, if we eat rice, we will be able to get the supply of vitamin A. So thereby, it helps us to prevent a lot of ailments. Next. In India, a lot of work is going on. Despite so much of opposition, the scientific institutions, they are spending a lot of money and time in developing GM crops. And as of today, more than 8 traits are being tested on about 20 crops, 20 major crops, which I have listed in the table. And all these are very staple crops, which some of them are food crops, some of them are commercial crops, oilseed crops, fiber crops. All these are under testing. Just imagine if you are able to bring out these crops into the market, and the farmers and people, they are able to get the benefits, how much of contribution we can make. But unfortunately, the approval of these crops are delayed because there is opposition that the GM crops are not safe. And this has been refuted by the scientific institutions all over the world. About 10 scientific academies, they have examined the results with GM crops, and they declared that GM crops are safe. Next. If you review, our question today has been, the question has been posed in the seminar, whether India is capable of becoming a food bowl of the world. My answer to this is an optimistic yes. If a single crop like BT cotton, just with only one trait, that is insect control, can revolutionize cotton cultivation, provide socio-economic and environmental benefits to 6 to 7 million cotton farmers and their families, and transform India from an importer to an exporter of cotton, it serves as a great example and a motivation for us. We can actually achieve remarkable results by utilizing a number of other beneficial traits that I have shown in the previous slides, which can be introduced into food crops, commercial crops, and oilseed crops and fiber crops. And by this, we can not only self-sufficient, we can become a world leader in agriculture. If cotton is a successful story today, I will give full credit to our farmers. because who stood by the technology despite such aggressive opposition. Farmers know what is best for them. Our political leaders will have to have a will to take the agriculture forward. In matters related to science, our political leaders should be guided by scientists and by farmers. Let us hope it will become a reality sooner than later. Next. With so many, next slide. With so much progress made, next slide, please. With so much of research and promising products in the pipeline, which I have already explained until now, crop biotechnology can help overcome major challenges in agriculture and become a football of the world. Crop biotechnology is all about genes, which I have mentioned earlier. Gene technology is very valuable and it is here to stay. And today, next slide. This is the age of genes. We can accomplish a lot of things. So this is the age of genes as much as it is the age of genes. So with this, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much for the opportunity and thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Manjunath. Thank you for putting your time and effort in explaining the technology and the science behind discovery. You also touched upon the opposition to this sort of science and technology. And even farmers initially were apprehensive of using this technology. And you also discussed how there was an eventual acceptance for BT cotton. And you also mentioned how India could become a self-sufficient for cotton requirements, as well as be in a position to export cotton, which is very good. But you also mentioned about myths that went associated with BT cotton at the time of introduction. You were saying that many people felt that it was dangerous to animals, dangerous to biodiversity, dangerous to soil, and so on and so on. So several allegations were made. Well, I thought we must listen to a farmer himself, and I would now like to introduce a farmer who was also very apprehensive at the beginning, as he will tell us about it. And then eventually, he's a science graduate, by the way, from Madras University. So he knew something about science. Despite that, he was very apprehensive. But then he realized the actual scientific, concept behind the technology, and then he started experimenting it. So let's listen to him. He's a third-generation farmer, Mr. V. Ravichandran from Tiruvallur district in Tamil Nadu. He's been growing paddy, sugarcane, cotton, pulses, etc. for over 30 years. So he's got, if there is anyone who has experience in growing these crops, it's got to be, and there are many, many people, but one of the leading ones is Mr. Ravichandran from Tamil Nadu. He's a founder of the United Progressive Farmers Forum. He not only worries about his own farming issues, but farmers around him, as well as farmers around India, at least in the region where he's coming from. So he's very, very active in running a WhatsApp group to listen to, and also where possible to provide some answers. He's a member of the several farmer organizations and some in actual leadership role. And he's a frequent invitee to many conferences within India as well as outside of India. He's been to Africa, I think, maybe more than once, to Uganda, I know for sure, to discuss with them about the success of BT cotton, particularly in his own field. And also he's a frequent participant in the World Economic Forum on Agriculture. So with this short introduction, Mr. Ravichandran, I would like to bring you in to discuss what your experience has been in terms of initial apprehension about BT cotton, as well as acceptance of BT cotton, and where you are now. Thank you so much. Thank you for participating in this seminar. Thank you.
I'm Ravichandran. I'm farmer from Tamil Nadu. I'm from the Tiruvallur district. So at the outset, I would like to thank Biotechnica for providing this wonderful platform, for inviting me as a farmer, my capacity as a farmer. So let me just go into the next slide. So I have been farming since 1986. I started growing cotton from the year 1986 itself. So the year I started farming, I started growing cotton cultivation. So those days we had only open pollinator variety. I was growing varieties like MCU7, MCU5, SVPR2, SVPR3, Sorabi, and such varieties. So later in the year 1999, I started growing a hybrid variety. though BT cotton was introduced in the year 2002, I took up the cultivation only in 2004. So I will tell it in the later stage why there was a delay in 2 years in adopting this technology. So those days I should mention the the nightmarish experience we had when we were growing this non-BT cotton. I wish to forget it, but nevertheless, I feel it is relevant to mention it here. So those days, we had the problem of bollworms. So that was a single factor that that drained all our resources. So those days, we had this when we were growing this non-BT, whether it is non-BT hybrid or non-BT open pollinated variety. It devastated these the three bollworms, namely Helicoverpa, spotted bollworms, and pink bollworms. Besides this, we have this Productera. They devastated our crop. We incurred heavy economic loss. They inflicted huge loss, and the yield also dropped substantially. So actually, those days we used to spray all kinds of insecticide. Name a chemical, we would have sprayed it. So that was the situation that was prevailing prior to this introduction of BT cotton. So those days every week we call it calendar spray. So on Monday we will be spraying one chemical, Tuesday another chemical, and we used to exhaust all chemicals. Nothing had any effect. Then after exhausting all the chemicals, we used to do different combinations, permutation combinations, pesticide 1 and pesticide 2 and pesticide 1 and 3, and like that. None of which had any impact on the pests we were targeting. So that was the situation. We even tried this. So I have tried this biological control methods also. Like I used nuclear polyhedrosis virus. I used this pheromone traps, light traps, all such things. Everything failed. I was so very desperate. Though cotton is my pet crop, is my favorite crop, I was even contemplating to give up cotton itself. So that was the sad condition that was prevailing prior to the introduction of BT cotton. Then I told you BT cotton was formally introduced in the year 2002. But nevertheless, I dragged my feet for about 2 years. I took up its cultivation only in the year 2004. This is because I was carried away by a lot of misinformation about this BT cotton. Those days, whenever you open a newspaper, you get a lot of news items that cattle grazing in BT cotton field died in Andhra Pradesh, and goats died. If you grow BT cotton, all the soil organisms would die, and the earthworms, which is the friends of the farmers, BT cotton would eliminate the earthworms. Then honeybees would be affected. All such allegations were made. So I was carried away. I should admit that I was a bit scared to take up the cultivation of BT cotton, though it was claimed that it would control the bollworms. So that was given the cost of seed was high, and there is no justification for paying the higher amount for the seed material. Then the turning point happened in the year 2004 for me. So in the year 2004, I still remember, it is still vivid in my memory. In 2004, I saw in the newspaper, there was a meeting organized by the South Indian Cotton Association, SICA, in Coimbatore. I was very curious to attend this meeting and see whether I get any solution to control my the bollworms that inflicted heavy damage to my crop. I went there. Fortunately, there was a session on BT cotton. I was so very impressed. I was so very eager to listen to the lecture. So it is a good thing that I'm sharing the dais with the scientists I am sharing the dais here with the scientists who spoke on 3rd March 2014, Dr. T.M. Manjunath. So just now he made a beautiful presentation. He made a wonderful presentation. So at the end of the session, there was a question, and after the end of his speech, there was a question and answer session. I utilized it completely. I asked him a lot of questions. I had all the doubts that I had been nurturing, that I had been having in my mind, and all the fears that I had been nurturing. I asked him. He politely replied. He clarified all the doubts. At the end of the meeting, he asked me, so since you have a lot of, still you may have some kind of apprehension, I suggest you to go back to your village and take up the cultivation of BT cotton, at least in one acre. So on my return from Coimbatore, which is about 350 kilometers from my village, I had to hop over 5 different buses. I got down at Kumbakonam and purchased purchased seed needed, BT cotton seed needed for 1 acre. So it was available only in Kumbakonam, not in any of these places. So I bought the seed material needed for 1 acre. Then I also bought its non-BT counterpart. So both hybrids. So on 5th March, as soon as I returned to my village, I took up the sowing of BT cotton in 1 acre, hybrid BT cotton in 1 acre. Alongside, I took up the cultivation of its non-BT counterpart. And besides, I took up the cultivation of open pollinated variety also. I wanted to know what is the justification for paying that extra money for the technology. So why should I pay the more money for the seed cost? What is the secret behind it? Why should I pay that? So that's why I wanted to see for myself. Though the scientists explained all the details, but nevertheless, I wanted to have a hands-on experience. I wanted to have first-hand experience on BT cotton. So right from the day I sowed the seed, I made a comparison between hybrid and BT cotton hybrid and hybrid and open pollinated variety. When I say hybrid, it's non-BT. So whenever it is a GM crop, I say it is BT cotton. So I made a comparative study. Each element of cost I logged in my notebook. Every paise I spent, I logged in, and I made a comparative study. Initially, I thought that I would be making only some benefit by way of reduced pesticide expenses. But to my pleasant surprise, I could realize much more direct and indirect benefits than what I had anticipated for. So let me explain quickly in the coming slides. So this is true for any crop, whether it is cotton or rice or pulses, any other crop. See, the yield, the profitability depends on 3 important factors, namely increase in per acre yield. So we have to increase the per acre yield, and then reduction in cost, and increase in unit selling price. All these 3 factors, they make the profitability. They are instrumental for, they are the reason for increase in the profitability or reduction in the profitability also. If there is a negative thing, is a decrease in profit. And if the yield increases or the cost is reduced or unit price is increased, then there will be more profit. So let me explain how BT cotton enabled me in these 3 factors that impact the profitability, overall profitability. So this is the way. The yield of cotton depends on the number of squares and bolls that sit in these plants. Actually, when I was growing non-BT cotton, these flowers, squares, and bolls, they shed. These bollworms damage all parts of the plants, whether it is flower or bolls or stem. They damage all parts of the plant. And when it plant reaches its reproductive stage, they damage the bolls. Because of that, the boll shedding due to this bollworm was very high when we were growing this non-BT cotton, open pollinated variety as well as hybrid non-BT cotton. So since this BT protein it is it is spread all over the plant. So right from the root to the tender fruit portion, the toxicity can it is uniformly spread all over the plant. The moment the larvae choose the plant, it immediately starves and dies. So therefore, bolt shedding due to bollworm is practically nil. It is absent rather. It is absent. So the bolt retention rate of BT cotton is relatively higher. This ultimately translates into higher yield. Oh, this is one factor. This is one major factor. Another important factor is for any plant to perform well, it must enjoy unhindered vigor right from the day we sow. So these, as I said earlier, these bollworms damage not only the bolls, they also damage so because of that, the initial of a plant was restricted by the non-BT version. So BT version, so from the day before the plant enjoy right from the day we see. This is my portrait. You can see here. You can see the number of squares and balls. You can see a lot of balls here. It's me in the cotton. So it's me. It's extra long staple cotton. So I'm selling it in the local mandi. So it's my cotton. You can see the fluffy cotton here. And another factor I was mentioning about was this cost reduction. So this is another important factor. I mentioned earlier, there is definitely reduced pesticide usage. Pesticide there is material cost as well as spraying cost. These two elements of cost that makes we could make a substantial saving by way of by reducing our pesticide spray and the spraying costs also. Those days, if you had visited any villages prior to say in the year 1980, in the 80s and 90s, you would be welcomed by the roaring noise of these power sprayers, deafening noise of these power sprayers. And the entire village, you can smell this pungent smell of all kinds of insecticide. So you can imagine what would happen had we not had this BT cotton now. So during the days of COVID-19, certainly it would affect the lungs. So fortunately, I refrain from spraying any insecticide to control these bollworms. So there is definitely cost reduction by way of pesticide usage. And another one is in India we have the BT trait incorporated in hybrids. In other nations, they use it in what do you call open pollinated variety. So in hybrids, we maintain a spacing of 3 feet by 3 feet. It enables, so we have to nurture just 5,500 number of plants per acre of hybrid BT cotton. Whereas in this open pollinated variety, we used to, we maintain a distance of 2 feet by 1 feet. So we have to nurture about more than 20,000 plants per acre. So the sowing cost as well as fertilizer placement cost dramatically reduced in hybrid cotton. whether it is BT or non-BT. If it is hybrid, then there is definitely there is you have to nurture just 5,500 number of plants. And one more important observation I made was this harvest labor. So nowadays there is the laborers are in short supply. So in the non-BT cotton, so these harvests, see the bolts, they don't open fully because of the bollworm affected bolts. They don't open fully. It is difficult for the harvest laborers to pick the cotton. I made a time and motion study also. So in the case of BT cotton, the bolts open fully. It is easier for the harvest laborers to pick the fluffy cotton. So the harvest labor efficiency also increases. I made a thorough study before, in that 1 acre, I made a thorough study. Then only I decided to go for BT cotton in a larger area. And one more important factor is better sale value for the farmers. So how do you say that, you may ask, how do you say that farmers get a better price for BT cotton? So this is not simply because it is BT cotton. So as you all know, the cotton seed is an oil seed. So the bollworms damage not only the other parts of the plant, it also damages the seed. So once it chews the seed, it secretes oil, it contaminates the fiber. The traders and millers, the ginners and millers, they prefer only the uncontaminated fiber. So in the left side, you can see this, bolts affected by these, bollworms. These are all contamination by these bollworms, caused by the bollworms. On the right side, you can see the pure white fluffy cotton. Oh, this is the so without mentioning that it is BT cotton, the traders, when I take it to the mandi, bidders, they offer at least ₹1 more per kg. So if my non-BT cotton fetched say 40 rupees, it would fetch 41 rupees. It fetches better price. Now this is not applicable because everybody goes for BT cotton. I am telling during the days when we are growing both BT as well as non-BT. So that was the situation. And one more important thing is besides these profitability increasing factors, there are other benefits as well. Since we refrain from spraying any kind of insecticide to control bollworms, the non-target insects like ladybird beetle, chrysoba, spiders, all such non-target insects are preserved. In fact, these ladybird beetles, they take care of the sucking pest. So they prey upon the sucking pest. So that is one important observation I noted in my BT cotton field. So otherwise, in the non-BT cotton field, had I sprayed any insecticide, all these ladybird beetle would have died. And there is, as I said earlier, the environment. Environment is not at all polluted. Since there is less number of pesticide application, the to control the sucking pest. So we don't spray any kind of insecticide to control bollworms. So these are some of the incidental benefits. So as I was telling, there was I was carried away by the I was reluctant to take up cultivation of BT cotton because there was a myth that cattle grazing in the BT cotton field would die. You can see these kind of stray cattle. This is a common sight in all over the villages. The stray cattle, they graze on this cotton field. And this is goats. So goats, they also graze on this cotton field. And again, this farmer, this is his BT cotton field. He is holding in his hand. Can you see that? Yeah. So you can see it here. He is holding this. He dug out this in the cotton field. He dug out and took out this earthworms and holding it in his hand. He is displaying it. You can see it here. So if it is, see, actually, this BT is nothing but the Bacillus thuringiensis that is available in the soil. Anywhere you can see that Bacillus thuringiensis. So it has been there, it has been existing along with many other organisms for millions of years. If it is really harmful, so except this Bacillus thuringiensis, all other organisms would have died. The very fact that they coexist, it shows so that it is harmless. So you can see the earthworms that he is holding it in his hand. So honeybees also. This is this photograph was sent by my friend. So it is you can see the honeybee honeycomb in his BT cotton field. Yes, it is harmless to the honeybees also. Since we refrain from spraying any insecticide to control bollworms, the honeybee activity is more. And finally, so these are some of the things I wanted to highlight. And the GM crop can complement this biodiversity. See, we can grow, or we have to feed the population, more population, with the limited resources. It is possible. We can, by addressing the biotic and the abiotic stress factors, we can increase the overall productivity. And again, recently I read in a newspaper that last month, in the month of June 2020, in Australia, they have innovated this what they call colored cotton. Colored cotton using GM technology. This in the colored cotton, no chemical dye needs to be used. Because of the plant itself produces high quality colored cotton. The fiber length and the fiber strength and the micron, everything would be good. So in any other variety we grow, that can be converted into fabulous and exotic colors. And that was one thing I wanted to mention about this cotton. And one more thing is, recently, some 6 months back, FDA has approved gossypol-free cotton. So cotton, oilseed has this. Many of the oilseeds have this gossypol, which they say that it is toxic. So by using this genetic engineering, the cotton seed could be converted, could be made, which is gossypol-free. Even the cotton meal could be used for edible purpose. So right now we are using it for cattle. So these are some of the advantages. Unfortunately, it is only the farmers growing cotton alone are benefited. They consider just less than 0.5% of the total number of farmers, but they are the ones. And the remaining farmers, they are yet to taste the benefit of the technology. So, what I want to convey through this presentation is, see. Not our Prime Minister wants to double the farmers' income by 2022. We can achieve it by adopting good technology. After when it passes through all the regulatory procedures, it should be allowed. Farmers must have access to this technology. So only through the technology we can enhance the yield. So this is the one point I would like to appeal to the people. And we have a lot of students here. You are the opinion makers, you are the future farmers, you are the future scientists. You should be active and and help the farming community to access good technology. And before closing my speech, I want to mention Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's famous quote: "Everything else can wait, but not agriculture." So let us not be kept waiting forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravichandran. I know you really shared with us, with the students and all the other listeners, the true experience of a cotton farmer. So thank you so much. And I want to mention to the audience that you all heard a true and a real-time experience of a farmer, one who has who's been cultivating BT cotton for many years now. His experience with BT cotton has won him a lot of accolades, not just in India, but outside of India as well. As I said before, he's a frequent invitee to many meetings in India as well as abroad. Just imagine he had to, initially to prove himself, he had to change 5 buses to get to a place where he can actually buy BT cotton hybrid seeds. But I don't think he's looked back, and now he is a a true follower of a BT coding technology. At the same time, very open for other technologies also. So thank you, Mr. Ravichandran, for spending some time with us today. Now I would like to, invite another farmer from by background, but is also a farmer's advocate. There are thousands and millions of farmers, and they need a voice. They need a voice like Mr. Ravichandran. They also need a voice like Mr. Changal Reddy, who is a BA and LLB graduate. He's a farmer by profession, but also has got 2 degrees to be in a position where he can voice the opinions of the farmers where it matters. It could be the local governments, it could be the central government, it could be the PM's office itself, as he frequently does in the best way that he alone can do. So he is an honorary chairman of Federation of Farmers Association. He's around various farmers meetings. He is partnering with many other organizations for mutually beneficial issues, policies, liberalization and mechanization of agriculture sector, acceptance of new technology, foreign direct investments, and so on and so on. And he's also a member of several government-enabled commissions and task force entities, and is a frequent invitee to the debates that happens on television channels like NDTV or Times Now, and so on and so on. So let's listen to Mr. Changal Reddy for about maybe 12 to 15 minutes and see what he has to say in terms of taking the issues of the farmers face to the place where it actually matters from a farmer's perspective. Welcome, Mr. Changal Reddy. Please, the dais is yours.
Today, the issue is of genetic technologies benefit to the farmers. Absolutely. As a farmers activist, I see across other sections in India, similar that such as telecom, aircrafts, hotels, hospitals, especially around defense forces, are getting the best technologies. Today, if you see, Indian CEOs are heading multinationals, some of the top companies, and Indian doctors are advisors in American government. And India, within India itself, you see industry and service sector growing at 8 to 10% since 1990s liberalization. Now here, if you see, the farm sector has been lagging all these 30 years. We have been lagging behind. Is it because farmers don't work? Or is it they're not smart? Or is it something wrong? Well, yes, as a farmers activist, I find that in the last 30 years, after liberalization, farm sector is not given its due importance in terms of reforms. That includes making access to technologies, investments, and market reforms. And see the consequence today. Well, on one side, we see India as a world growing as a world power. And hats off to recent developments in the last 6 years by Mr. Modi. We have become a superpower. And the recent developments of our problems with the foreign countries, we are able to do it with great confidence. And in all other sectors, we are progressing. But in the farm sector, if you see, the growth is not even 1 to 2% averages. Now, why is this happening? Is there any problem with the government? Or is it our research has been, research and our scientists are incapable? No, absolutely not. The simple problem today is world has become one. If you see medical sector, the best medicines, equipments are made available to Indian patients within a matter of 1 month or 2 months. Whereas if you could take telecoms, they are coming almost on daily basis. And if you look at the other issues like our automobiles or aeroplanes, we are getting the best. But again and again, the farm sector is in distress. Now look at the farm sector's problems in the last 30 years. Instead of being called as annadatas, probably we are being, every day we are begging governments, state government, central government, this government, that government, for loan waivers, for relief, for subsidies, everything. Virtually, you can call us, eternal beggars. That is not really the problem with farmers. On one side is a very strong government which is propelling the growth of all other sectors. But here comes the problem of the farm sector. Now, as far as the farm sector is concerned, we often wonder why, who is obstructing this so-called GM technologies. Look at government of India. They have established almost 35 years back a GEAC committee with all the paraphernalia, and I believe it is the best of, it's one of the best in the world. See, if you see medical technology research evaluations, they are the best. If you see our space technology, they are the best. Likewise, in every technology, the governments have kept in place a very proper evaluating methodology, a scientific committee, and the due process of making this technology evaluation and make it accessible to people. But here comes the problem with agriculture sector. Now, as farmers, we have, you see, right from 1970s, 80s, the development of agriculture with adoption of hybrid seeds, fertilizer, pesticides, mechanization, drip irrigation, and all other things, farmers has been adopting. Any new technology that comes within a matter of 2-3 years, it is made, farmers are adopting very happily, and they are happy also. But the problem is coming with people like some of these NGOs and also some political parties. Now, when you look at these NGOs, I don't know, they have nothing to do with the farmers. I would call them in a sort of a professional NGOs, because for them, opposing genetic technology or saying that opposing multinationals or something, probably it gets them some money, therefore they seems to be following. But the real tragedy has come from the political system. See, if you see in 2002, we got GM cotton approved by government of India. Even before that, in Gujarat, it was unofficially used for a couple of years. Then after 2002, if you see India, which was probably one of the, very low cotton production, and then it was susceptible for bollworm, and there were a number of suicides across India, especially in Andhra Pradesh. But if you see from 2002, cotton is the best growing crop, and in terms of yields, in terms of production, in terms of price, in terms of quality, we have become one of the world's best, and India has become a net exporter in the last 10 years. But unfortunately, the same technologies are not made available in other crops. See, what is great tragedy is Indians has been consuming genetic edible oils from 2007 or even before that. We are producing almost 1 million tons of cotton edible oil. And from 2007, we have been importing genetic soy oil and even canola, that is mustard oil, from Canada, Brazil, Argentina, America. All these 13-14 years, we are using genetic edible oils, and it is consumed by ordinary people, citizens, because these imported edible oils are all distributed through public distribution system, and very happily people are consuming. And I would like to share with you, how is that our Indians who are there in America, almost probably 500,000 or more, they are eating genetic food every day. As far as we farmers know, almost 95% of soya, maize, and some of the crops are all genetic in America, right from 2000 for the last 20 years. How is it there is no complaint, either by American citizens, farmers, or from so-called NGO groups, or our own Indians staying there? We have people in all these sectors working, and not only medical, even research, genetic research. Hundreds and hundreds of them are there. They are all working. The problem here is, unfortunately, the government has put down a very good system to evaluation. And our scientists are doing their best job. In fact, Dr. Deepak Pental, way back in 2011, developed mustard, and till today it has not seen the light of the day. And the second generation, third generation of BT cotton has been there, and it's not allowed. And the other real problem is, see, BT brinjal, which was approved by our GEAC, is stopped by some novice politicians. And all this now in the last 18 years, Indian farmers are not able to get any new genetic technology. You see, unfortunately, farmers have no organization of their own. We have a lot of good farmers like my Mr. Ravichandran, who has done, and across the country, almost in every crop, There are thousands and thousands of progressive farmers. But let us remember, like human beings getting diseases, problems, and look at human race development in the last 100 years. We have developed a number of vaccines. They are all preventive, and of course, some are treatment. After all, what is the difference between humans, plants, and animals? We are one and the same. Especially for farmers, an animal and a plant is part and parcel of his family. Like children, they are like his children. Losing an animal or losing a crop, it affects him as much as losing his own kids. So this problem of technology access is being denied to farmers, and many efforts are being made. This web conference today, it's in good direction. Dr. Manjunath and others who are all there participating in these discussions, they are all there. What my request to, especially those of elite people or educated people or whoever they are, and also people who are participating in this discussions, I want you to understand certain fundamental things. Please understand that Indian agriculture has the highest potential in terms of climate, suitability of soil, agroclimatic conditions, farmers, water, and everything. But then our productivity is very, very low. Now, for reasons I don't need to tell you. And we are also incurring huge crop losses. And also there is other problem of quality maintenance because of lack of uniformity in adopting crop management techniques. So therefore, what is happening is we are unable to compete in the international market. But look at the same time, you also must remember that the so-called WTO countries, be it Americans or Australians or any other country, they are all using genetic technology. How could you deprive, how do we deprive our Indian farmers of genetic technology? This is a very, very sad state of affairs. And look at our own research part of it. Today, Indian medical system is one of the best. And of course, others are also this. Now here in this genetic sector, look at the number of universities that are doing research. I mean, there are, as I remember, almost around 2 lakhs graduates who are into genetic graduation, post-graduation, PhDs, who have studied genetics, and without development in research and implementation, production and marketing and sale of these genetic seeds, what are these boys going to do? I mean, this is where the most unfortunate aspect is happening. And there is, I think basically the problem comes here in is farmers do not have an organization, because almost 90% of them are illiterate, small marginal farmers. And we have also the difficulty among farmers of communication. Today we are speaking in English. We are discussing the whole thing in English. Now, if you look at the farmers, 90% of them, they do not understand any language other than their mother tongue. How are we to communicate? And our process of research, our policy making, and our administration is all in the English language. So this problem is affecting the farmers. Now, all that I would like to convey to you, all of you people who are participating in the debate, is we have started writing to Prime Minister. A couple of months back, I have written a letter to the Prime Minister. We are now again and again trying to mobilize public opinion. My request to all of you is, let us say on 1st of next month, let us all write Prime Minister with copies to others, to Agriculture Minister, Science and Technology Ministers, that they must immediately approve and release the projects which are already been cleared by GEAC, like mustard, like brinjal, cotton, and other things on the process like maize, soy, and they are all there, and they must be made available to the farmers. See, it's a matter of, I don't want to belittle my country in terms of farmers' issues. You see, look at our neighbor Bangladesh. They are using BT brinjal, which was rejected by us, and it is being smuggled into our country. It's made available across the country. And a country like Indonesia, they have developed genetic sugar cane, and many other countries are doing. After all, what is wrong in these technologies? And to belittle our own government of India is something which pains me. After all, in 1985, if I remember, Ministry of Environment is created, has been functioning, and we have so many of the research people. My appeal to the Prime Minister policymakers and to the Minister for Science and Technology and Minister for Agriculture is allow these technologies. It looks really bad that while you are importing genetic products produced by American and Brazilian farmers, this government is not allowing Indian farmers to use genetic seeds. So this is very, very disappointing to farmers. My appeal to the policymakers is that kindly take immediate steps, because recently Mr. Modi has now issued an ordinance on farm reforms of marketings and essential commodities act. My appeal to the Prime Minister is, sir, please immediately allow these GM technologies. You have an excellent set of scientific communities. Sir, GAC is one of the best scientists, and I request you, sir, is to kindly help us. We farmers, sir, you have seen in the recent COVID crisis, Indian farmers and agriculture is able to support the countries in all the ways. And in the coming days, whatever may be the other problems, farmers will stand by the nation and by the people, and we will produce whatever is required by the country. Only thing is, please help us with these technologies. Thank you very much.
Be strong.
Thank you, Mr. Chengal Reddy. Listeners, basically what Mr. Reddy is trying to tell us and share with us is that while India seems to embrace and adopt new technologies in other areas without any hesitation, why is the government, why is the community dragging their feet in taking decisions to help farmers, to help consumers, and to help Indian farmers to become more and more competitive? Without new technologies, as we have been giving it to the defense or the health and other sectors, IT and so on, why is that farmers are being deprived of such new technology, which are proven elsewhere? Why can't they prove here in India by the hard work and open accommodation of these technologies by the Indian farmers? So we can feel his frustration, which is not just his, but maybe many thousands of farmers across India, as he's in touch with many farmers across India. So my request to you is to, let us not be hypocritical. Let us not be hypocritical in the sense that we accept certain technologies that are so useful to us without asking questions, but not really voice our opinion on technologies that may be helpful for the farmers and to everyone else in the community. So please, like I requested, please proceed writing letters to who it matters. Discuss amongst yourselves, debate amongst yourselves, and see what you can do to help farmers like Mr. Chengal Reddy, Mr. Ravichandran, and many others who are behind them. So thank you, Mr. Chengal Reddy, for your time and expressing your views and your work with the government to help farmers to do a better contribution to the GDP of India. I now would like to invite Mr. Ram Kaundinya. I've known Ram for a very long time. He's an expert in the seed technology industry of India. He's been a member of many seed technology associations and making a big difference. He's worked with multinational companies, so he has the corporate background, at the same time not losing his eyes on the ground reality. He is a graduate agriculture sciences from Andhra Pradesh Agriculture University. He's got 35 years of corporate experience in very high senior positions. And most importantly, he was a member of the committee set up by the principal scientific advisor to the Prime Minister of India on agriculture policies and action plans to for securing and sustainable agriculture. We need people like Mr. Ram Kaundinya and many people like him who can connect on one side to the farmers and on the other side to the government to really help bring in changes in policies that will be much more friendlier to the farmers and, of course, to the entire nation. With this short introduction, I would like to welcome Mr. Ram Kaundinya to share his views on how we can make India become more competitive by solving farmers' plights and really answer the question, can India really become a food bowl to the world in the future? Thank you, Ram. Please come in.
Good morning, everyone. This is Ram Kaundinya. I'm happy to be talking to you today through this Biotechnica webinar. And we are trying to address the question about, can India solve farmer? So let us talk about farmer's plight. What are the problems that he's facing? And So the first one is that his profitability is low. Lack of profitability is one of the first problems, which is caused by high cost, low yields, and the non-remunerative prices. Our yields have been stagnant for many decades now after the Green Revolution. Climate change is a reality now. It is affecting all of us every day. So farmer faces droughts, floods, high temperatures, and depleting water resources because of climate change. Biotic stresses like insects, weeds, and diseases affect him every day during the course of the cultivation. Soil degradation, which has happened over decades due to overuse of fertilizers, which has led to depletion of organic carbon in the soil. Non-competitive globally, we are not able to export because he's not able to produce at competitive cost and prices. Inadequate financial services due to lack of bank financing and insurance programs as per his requirement, which has led to lack of risk-bearing capacity over a period of time. Post-harvest losses are about 30%. We all know about it due to transportation and storage problems. So can biotechnology address some of these issues? The question is yes, it can. So let's see how it can happen. Genetically modified crops. What is happening in the world with genetically modified crops? The first thing is that currently it is occupying around 191.7 million hectares in the world, which is very great progress it has made in the last 25 years. Out of this, herbicide-tolerant trait is occupying around 87.5 million hectares, and insect-resistant, which is the BT, is occupying 23.7 million hectares, while a combination of these two called stack is occupying 80.5 million hectares. But interestingly, soybean is the largest crop, which is occupying almost 94.9 million hectares. But importantly, 78% of the total soybean area in the world is occupied by GM today. Cotton, again, 76% of the area is occupied by cotton by GM today in cotton. And maize, which is around 58.9 million hectares, is occupied out of 197 total. So around 30% of maize area is occupied by GM today. And in canola, it is around 29% of the overall acreage. So in some of these crops, GM has actually taken major share out of the overall acreage in the world. The GM is celebrating 25 years this year. 1996, it first got commercialized in the world. So if you see some of the major achievements during this 25-year period, we have reduced globally, I'm talking, we have reduced pesticide usage by almost 619 million kgs, which is equal to around 6.19 lakh tons of pesticides. Usage has come down, which is around 8% reduction. It has reduced carbon dioxide emissions of almost 24 billion kilos. That means which is equal to around 24 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions have been reduced, which is actually equal to 13.6 million cars, means around 1.36 crore cars being taken off the road. So you can imagine what is the impact it will have on the pollution levels. Food security, on the other hand, has improved because of this. So we've been able to increase production in the same acreages. If you just see that around 51 million acres, that means around 5 crore acres, we would have to bring additional land under cultivation if we had to produce the same level of production we are doing today, which is we have now produced around 180 million tons of soybean, 357 million tons of corn, and 10.6 million tons of canola using GM technology in the last 25 years. So it's a huge benefit which has come to the farmers and the countries and the economies over a period of 25 years. Genetically modified crops in India, what is happening? You all know that the only crop, and earlier speakers have also spoken, that the only crop which is approved so far is cotton. And we have seen some fantastic results with cotton. But for us to understand the industry structure a little more, I'll go a little more into that. If you see how seed has evolved, because biotechnology or the gene or the trait has to be delivered through seed to the farmer. That is the only delivery mechanism. So the seed, we have to understand the seed also when you are trying to understand biotech traits. So seed technology, if you see, for centuries, farmers have been growing what are called varieties, tall varieties with low yields and high disease susceptibility. And he used to save his seeds, which then led to in the Green Revolution time, we brought dwarf high yielding varieties. So they were not tall, they were dwarf, and they had high yield potential. and these are called improved varieties and high yielding varieties. So HYVs, they produce the magic of green revolution for us in rice and wheat particularly. In the 70s, we had hybrids which came in a big way in many of the crops like cotton, maize, and bajra, jawar, and all that. And they have actually brought in better disease resistance and higher yields. In the last 20 years, we have been using biotech tools like molecular markers to increase speed and precision of breeding. Normally, breeding takes 7 to 8 years to develop a new variety, but molecular markers have brought down that speed, increased the speed and brought down the time required. And in the last decade, now it's almost in the last 18 years, GM technology has come. BT we have been introduced in cotton, which controls insects, and it can potentially control weeds and stress management. It can be used in both HYV and hybrids. So there is no technological constraint in using it in any of these. The structure of biotech trait licensing, we all have to understand that biotech traits are developed by some companies who are pure trait developers, or they could be companies who may be having both seed and trait development. But both of them have to license the genes or the traits to seed companies. They could be public companies, they could be private companies, or they could be universities. They will actually take the trait from the trait provider and then they will introgress it. They will transfer the trait into their own germplasm. And then they create the hybrids or varieties out of them. And then these are sold to the farmers through either government channels or through private channels like distributors and retailers. So this is how it operates. There is a mechanism called royalty or trade fee, which is paid from the trade channel back to the trade provider, and that is built into the price in India. In some other countries, it is collected separately from the farmers. So this is how the structure of licensing works. So what is the legal and regulatory framework in India? We have the EPA, which is called the Environment Protection Act of 1986, which actually, and the rules of 1989, they govern the use of GM crops. Whether it is GM crops or GM health medicines, which are called rDNA medicines, these are all controlled by the same EPA, and it is controlled. It is under the Ministry of Environment and Forests. But the Department of Biotechnology also plays a role in this. So there are two important committees you should know. Under the Ministry of Environment, there is GEAC, Genetic Engineering. Once it used to be Approval Committee, now it is called Assessment Committee, which actually is the final authority to give approval. RCGM is under Department of Biotechnology, which is under Ministry of Science and Technology. RCGM helps during the process in generation of data. Each company or each institution will have what is called IBSC, Institutional Biosafety Committee, which actually does the monitoring, and then actually the activities are carried out by the company under the supervision of IBSC. Each state has got a biotech committee, state biodiversity committee or district level committees who are actually responsible to see that the bioresources are used properly. So this is how the overall rules operate. There is a detailed process of how the application moves and how different trials are conducted. It is a very long process, as you can see here. It takes almost 6 years by the time it goes for commercial approval. From the time you start import appliance and introgression to the commercial approval, it takes almost 6 years. There are 3 important things called BRL1 first year, BRL1-2 second year, BRL2. These are all the very important what are called open field trials, which happen in different states. And each state government has to give an NOC for these trials to be conducted in their state. So this is where actually a lot of coordination is required between the center and the states. And also there is a little bit of political alignment which is required between center and states. So let's look at, we have got only BT so far, which is insect resistance. It gives the plant the ability to withstand insects, and we have got only Lepidoptera and insect resistance so far. But that is what we have in the country today. But there are other traits. These are called input traits. Input traits are those traits which help you to manage the inputs, which help the farmer to manage the inputs better, either reduce the input usage or improve the efficiency of inputs. So BT reduces pesticide use, herbicide tolerance, which actually gives the plants the tolerance to particular herbicides like glyphosate or Basta, dicamba, 2,4-D. It helps in weed management. Better quality weed management is ensured by herbicide tolerance. Water use efficiency gives the plants the ability to use less water for the same produce, almost 30% less water. Fertilizer use efficiency makes the plants more efficient in using fertilizer so that overall fertilizer consumption can be reduced. Salinity tolerance gives the plants to grow in saline soils, which is a great boon to some of the farmers who face that problem. There is another trait called output traits, which actually change the composition of the grain or the output of a crop. So you must have heard of golden rice, which is actually rice with beta carotene, which is one of the examples of that. There is soybean with modified fatty acid profile, which is a more healthy oil, and phytase maize, which actually improves the nutritional content of maize for animal feed. So these are all two types of traits, and we have got only one so far with us, which is BT, and there are many more yet to come. This is just to show you that the natural resource efficient conservation of natural resources, how we can do through these traits. I've got 3 examples here. The first one is phosphorus use efficiency. I already mentioned about fertilizer use efficiency. How to use phosphorus more efficiently. There is a trait for that. You can see the difference between control and transgenic. There is nitrogen use efficiency, which actually improves the utilization of nitrogen and also reduces N loss into the environment and reducing GHG emissions. The third is water use efficiency, which actually reduces water use by almost 30%. And in India, we are developing it in cotton and rice. So you can see that 3 different traits are under development in India. They have not yet gone to the regulatory process or approval level because of the delays which have been happening in the regulatory process. Basically, our regulatory process is well defined, but it has been stuck in the last 15 years almost. After BT approval in 2002 and BG2 approval in 2005, for the last 15 years, we have not had a new approval. And one of the reasons is that there is not enough progress on the regulatory front, either because of lack of alignment between center and states, some of the states not allowing the trials to happen. There are 2-3 technologies which have come up to the approval stage, like BT brinjal, which came up to the approval stage in 2010. It went to the GAC. GAC approved it, but it has not seen political approval after that. There is a technology developed by Delhi University by Dr. Paintal, which actually is used in mustard to improve the hybrid production in mustard. It has a component of herbicide tolerance in it. It is called Barna-Bastas technology. And that also has gone up to the GAC level. GAC has approved it, but there is no political approval as yet. So these 2 are still stuck there. Meanwhile, Bangladesh has introduced BT brinjal, and they have made good progress in the last 5 years. So we are stuck in a way because of which new trades are not coming in, and the new investment has not yet happened into bringing more trades into the market. So what do we need in such a situation? We need a clear GM strategy for the country to be declared by the government. What are the crops and what are the traits in which GM we will have, we will approve, and we will encourage. This must be made very clear so that it is a very transparent process. We need predictable and science-based regulatory process, not politicized regulatory process, but regulatory process should be science-based and predictable. IP protection has come under a lot of cloud of late because IP is protected by the Indian Patent Act, but there is a dispute on that. So that also needs to be very clearly spelled out. We need a lot of public education. A lot of common people have apprehensions about the technology because of the wrong information being spread by some of the interested parties. We need actually a lot of public outreach and educational programs to give them the right information about the technology, the safety of the technology. Finally, we need more investment into research. This is also an extremely important area which was lagging behind because of the uncertainty in the process. So if we have these things, we have no doubt that the future could be very good. The next decade could be very good for the country in terms of bringing modern technologies for the help of the farmer so that his plight can be reduced and the country can produce more surplus at lower cost, and we are able to export also after meeting all the domestic demand. So that is the possibility, but we need some of these things to be in place for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ram Kaundinya. Basically stressed on how we can have seed as the carrier of technology, like the way microchip carries unbelievable technologies, from Intel or someone else to the computers. So this is, friends, I think you came up with a rare webinar here where we had scientists and technologists, where we had policy influencers and farmers as well. So what we need is a participation of decision makers representing different government departments, and who can work with us in a continuous manner, so that we can be, in a continuous way, we can take forward the woes of the farmers to see if we can make a difference. So now I would like to take it back to Mr. Shekhar Suman to see what he needs to do with regard to handling questions on all of that. Thank you very much. Shekhar, over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. And welcome back, everybody. I'm sure you're having a lot of questions, right? So we'll have a 5 minutes Q&A session. What I want you to do is, just before your question, write a capital Q and then mention the question, so that it will be easy for us to take over the questions, okay? In the meanwhile, I can see some questions are flowing in. Yeah. All right, so quickly, everybody, start asking your questions. Now, our team will pick and choose some important questions, and those we will discuss here. Okay? And thank you so much, everybody, for being there till the end. It is really a pleasure hosting all of you. And the kind of knowledge I gained personally today, I'm sure you all have gained a lot of knowledge. This platform was actually supposed to be like that, okay? To bring in experts from across the globe, let them share their views, so that we can learn and build a better future for our country and our world, right? So let's see if we have a question. Okay, what is the scope of crop biotechnology in India? I guess that's a question, Ashutosh. So can we answer that question, somebody?
I think Dr. Manjunath can initiate an answer to that. Dr. Manjunath, would you like to?
Yeah, yes. See, the scope for crop biotechnology in India is enormous. As I've shown in one of the slides, India is working with nearly about 25 to 28 crops with various traits. So if you are able to commercialize those crops, India is going to be benefited immensely and become a world leader in agriculture. So the scope is vast.
Ram, would you like to add to this?
Let's answer.
Okay.
Just a
so that's your answer.
I have shown some of the traits which could be of use to the country. I do believe that there are certain things which traditional breeding cannot do, and then crop biotechnology can leapfrog some of those areas and then provide answers to the farmers, especially in terms of managing the abiotic and biotic stresses. I think there is a lot of opportunity for that. It is very important that we increase yields. These arguments we hear many times that there's no need to increase yields because we're self-sufficient is a very fallacious and specious argument, because we are not self-sufficient. First of all, we import 1 lakh crores worth of edible oils every year, so we are not self-sufficient. We should remove that feeling from our minds, and our self-sufficiency is only in rice and wheat. So I think I see the biggest scope in oilseeds for using this technology. I use the biggest scope in using it in rain-fed areas, because these are the areas which need an input and an intervention to improve yields and to reduce the risks for the farmer. Those are the 2 areas where I see the most important scope. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just would like to add, today being this seminar being on biotech crops, We have spoken about the merit of this technology, but I would like to add that no single technology can provide answers to all the problems. So we should think of other technologies also to complement each other so that we will be able to have an integrated approach for management of various problems that we encounter in agriculture. So every technology has its own merit and we should try to make use of it. So integrated
Thank you,
approach
sir.
is the most important one.
Thank you, sir.
Great.
Shekhar, next question.
Yeah. So the next question is from Navya, and she asks, is there any problem in soil due to GM crops?
Mr. Ravichandran? Mr. Ravichandran, would you like to unmute and then speak?
Yeah.
Yeah. In India, we have only this BT cotton. So from my experience as a BT cotton farmer, so we have been spraying this Bacillus thuringiensis even in 1980s and 90s. So the moment I spray, the larvae has to chew it, then only it will die. Whereas, in case of this BT cotton, since Cry1AC and Cry2AB, these two genes are incorporated in the plant itself, in all parts of the plant, whether there is rain or shine, or it is it is active 24/7. It acts all over the plant. So that's why it is helpful. So again, as I said in one of my slides, see, this Bacillus thuringiensis is a soil-based bacterium. So it is harmless. We have been using it. Even the organic farmers are using it even today. If it is really harmful, except this Bacillus thuringiensis, no other organisms would survive. The very fact that they coexist for millions of years, that itself shows this is not harmful. This is beneficial, and I have been growing. So I was, one of the myths was if you grow this BT cotton, you cannot grow any other crop. So after this BT cotton, I grow rice. So I take record yield in my rice crop. So these are some of the. So in no way it is going to harm your soil.
Okay, thank you, sir. Shekhar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi. So our next question is, what is the future of GM crop technology, asked by Meghma Sarkar?
Dr. Manjunath?
Yes. See, the future of GM technology entirely depends on the regulatory approvals. If the BT cotton was approved in 2002, we are in 2020. During the last 18 years, no GM crop has been approved, although two important crops like mustard and BT brinjal, they have passed through all the regulatory tests and they have been approved by the scientific committee. So my opinion is that the government should follow the recommendations of the scientific committees which have been appointed by themselves rather than be guided by some other external source. So I think this is necessary that regulatory approvals are given so that the farmers are benefited.
Thank you. Shekhar?
Yeah, so the next question is from Pooja. Does GM crop can lead to mutation in human or affect humans?
Ram, would you like to take that question?
Well, the answer is no. So I think we have had actually now 25 years of experience globally. We have eaten more than 1 trillion meals made with GM foods. We haven't had even a single adverse report till today anywhere in the world, not just in India. So I think that is big enough experiment to show, there is a big enough trial to show that there is no harm to human beings. And whosoever thought that a virus will come from some animals into bats and from bats to humans and then create such a havoc in the world. So in nature, anything unpredictable can happen, but the data shows that there's nothing that we should be worried about because it is taken out of the bacterium which is already existing in the environment and which is existing in our soils. And so many tox studies, so many studies on carcinogenicity, everything is done which shows that this is the only technology in the history which has undergone that much of scrutiny. There's no other technology which has undergone so much of scrutiny on a regulatory scale. So I think there is enough work done on this front. I don't see, so I can very confidently say that the answer is no.
Dr. Manjunath, would you like to support that, a quick answer?
No, I think yes, his answer is adequate.
All right, thank you. Shekhar?
All right, so now the next question is from Santoshi. How can we create awareness in farmers who are suffering with a lot of stressful conditions due to this?
Mr. Ravichandran? Unmute, please.
So actually, it's all about the opinion. So false information are being spread. So actually, some of the media, they act as a virus to spread such false information. So I wish, especially these biotech students and the students community, they should take it up. They should use the social media to spread the message, spread the awareness. Spread the awareness about the GM crop and harmlessness, and dispel the myths that is deeply cast in the minds of the people. So that must be erased through awareness campaign. Especially these biotech students should actively participate in social media and share with the public about this technology. So instead of using technical jargons, they should use the words that ordinary people could understand. All such things. Besides, this technology could address the problem of hidden hunger also. Earlier question I wanted to answer that. So hidden hunger. So we have addressed the problem of this hunger during this the first green revolution. Now we have to address the problem of hidden hunger, malnutrition. So this technology could enable people to have nutritious food, for instance, golden rice. So these are some of the opportunities that are available, and awareness campaign needs to be spread amongst the people, so through the media. So this is one thing I wanted to add to this.
I just would like to add, there are a number of students and scientists who are attending to this webinar. We write a lot of articles, in scientific articles and other articles in English. But what the scientists and the students should cultivate is that they must try to write articles in their local language, which the farmers are very familiar with, and they will be able to grasp the ideas much better. So popular scientific articles in local language is a must for creating greater awareness about the technology.
So Shekhar, I would like to make one suggestion to Biotechnica also, if you don't mind. Maybe now that you have got onto this wonderful platform of creating awareness in agriculture, I don't know if you can actually, in your policy, your Biotechnica policy can actually start promoting such webinars in regional languages, particularly to do with agriculture. So please kindly consider when you think is right.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for your feedback. We'll certainly try to do that. Right. So we are now getting some questions from our farmer friends as well as research enthusiasts across the globe right now. In fact, my WhatsApp is ringing in with questions. So there's one question which I wanted to bring up for Dr. Manjunath. So like the way humans protect themselves, why can't plants protect themselves against the diseases? And why should there is so much of opposition towards this GM crops and
Yes, the plants actually, they have the inherent mechanism to resist some of the pests and diseases. And they are called resistant crops, naturally resistant crops. And when it comes to technology, for example, incorporating a Bt gene into a plant is almost like a vaccination therapy, because if you have the Bt protein in the plant, it ensures protections against the insects. So it is virtually like a vaccination therapy. So it is possible with the help of technology to actually immunize the plants.
Okay. So there's one more very interesting question posed by Karima. If a scientist develops a research crop which passes all the safety tests, still the commercial farming is not being adopted in India, it's being prohibited. So what that scientist should do in that case?
Ram?
I think scientists should continue to do science because that is their job. Scientists must, because if the scientist doesn't work on research projects, then there is no progress. Without research, there is no progress. I think scientists must continue to do their scientific work, but they must create some alliances to influence some of these policy matters. Because apart from doing scientific work, science communication is a big matter. Actually, it's a big subject. We are very poor in science communication. How to communicate science to the policymakers and also to the common man is not easy. But that's where I think some of the scientists can actually specialize. I think they can undergo special training if necessary, but I think scientists must undertake that job. A simple fact that the health pharmaceutical scientists do a much better job of that than agricultural scientists, because 25 different GM, they're not called GM in pharmaceuticals, they're called RDNA products. 25 different products are approved by the same GAC, and we consume them every day. All vaccines are GM. Our insulin is GM, which is taken by millions of people every day. But nobody is aware of that. Nobody has raised any objections to that. Well, just one GM crop has come and there is so much of opposition. So I think it is also scientists who must stand up and then who must communicate science to the common man.
So Ravi, Mr. Ravichandran, you are a science graduate. You're also a farmer for 3 decades now. What is your feedback to the scientists? What is the scientist should do, in your opinion?
Yeah, there is no huge gap between the scientists and the farmers. This gap must be bridged through this, some kind of communication platform. This is one thing. I'm very much, I'm very happy that I'm sharing the dice with, legendary people like Dr. T.M. Manjunath and Ram Kaundinya. This kind of, farmers must be invited to such platform. And they should be made to understand lead farmers. We have to pick the lead farmers in each area. They should be they should spread the message of the science. And again, they are the ones who could take the science to the rest of the farmers. So this is the way it has to go. Farmer to farmer communication is more important than scientist to farmer. So pick some lead farmers and train them, and teach them the nuances of science and technology, and these farmers would enable to take the science to the rest of the farmers. So this is my view on that.
Thank you, Shekhar.
Yeah, so looks like we have run out of time. It's already 1:10. So we will try to conclude this with one last question, which I have for Dr. Mithur. And that is what Biotechnica students or biotech students, bio students can do to take this further after this webinar ends.
Yeah, thank you, Shekhar. I think this has been a great opportunity for many students, not just the students of biotechnology, but students from other scientific disciplines to know about the problems that we have in India. And everybody knows that food first, medicine later, right? So there are plenty of scope, as the speakers have already mentioned to us. So, and there are plenty of opportunities to dive into courses in biotechnology. It could be short-term courses, it could be long-term courses. Many governments, including DBT, Government of India, has introduced special courses which for 1 year with scholarship provided, where they can actually go learn a specific aspect of agri-biotech or health biotech or environmental biotech or energy biotech. They could do that. I know Government of Karnataka has been doing it for nearly 7-8 years now. So they don't need to really go through, masters and PhD and postdoc and things like that. They can still sort of break away from that in case they cannot afford to, time-wise and money-wise. They can still contribute to that. At the same time, those scientists, those young people who are interested in innovation, pursuing their own curiosity, they can go enroll into PhD program in leading institutions, departments across the country, and then pursue science with a target in mind. This is where I would like to contribute. Let them have a target in mind. There is a disease in a particular crop. I want to know what I can do to contribute, even if it's a 0.1%, that I can contribute to help farmers to overcome that particular disease in that particular crop. If they can have a target in mind, I'm sure they will pursue their path, and I'm sure they will be successful. And we can share with you, Shekhar, The course is available through DBT website or Government of Karnataka website or other websites of state government where students can have access to these courses. So that's my short answer. Thank you, Shekhar.
Shekhar, I would like to add one last thing. See, since it is meant for students, I would like to advise the students not to rely on newspapers for scientific information. Of course, they can take the information from news from there, but they should verify their doubts by going into the scientific journals or also by interacting with the scientists concerned. So this will help them a lot in enriching their knowledge. This is my last suggestion.
Yes.
Okay, brilliantly said and concluded. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you, everyone. Now is the time to end this webinar, right?
So Shekhar, if you don't mind, I just wanted, I'd asked Mr. Kaundinya to summarize the entire proceedings maybe in 3 sentences. Basically, does he have answers to the question that you post in the title? So Ram, it's your thing for maybe 30 seconds. So what is that final thing that you want listeners to take away as they walk out of the webinar?
I want to say very emphatically that our agriculture can produce enough surpluses to mitigate farmers' plights and also to make India a food bowl. So that is a positive answer, first thing. What we need for that is a dedicated strategic direction, which is agreed between all the stakeholders. Secondly, very predictable and science-based regulatory mechanism and policy environment for use of modern science and technology in agriculture. Third is that large-scale public education. Public, especially housewives, in my opinion, must be convinced that this is a safe food to eat, and because they are the ones who decide what food is served in the family. So they must be convinced, and so there is a need for a large-scale public education program. And finally, I think farmers must take their own needs to the right people, and then farmers must demand what is required by them, and they must get it. So I think these are a few things which I would recommend. Of course, there are no straitjacket solutions. I think right now the atmosphere and the environment is quite congenial. So I think in the next 2 years, if you can get 1 or 2 GM crops approved, I think that will be a great start for this journey of this decade. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ram. And with this, we come to an end of our session, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll be sharing the feedback link right now. Please click on that, share your feedback. Okay. The journey which we started today is related to agri-biotech and the question that can India become the food bowl of the world? Rightly said by our experts, yes, but we need to give the right tools. We need to give the right weapons to our farmers, just like how we do it to our soldiers, right? So with this, we come to an end. Thank you so much, everyone. I know you have a lot of questions, but we can always interact in our future sessions. And looking forward to our next session where we meet you again. After this webinar, I'll be sending you a personal mail to each one of you. And that is where we'll have the surprise gifts and the link to how to generate your e-certificates. Okay, but make sure that you're filling out the feedback form. Okay, after 3 hours from now, the feedback form will close. So make sure you have filled it right away. Okay, with this, we come to an end. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.